Hello, and welcome back to the Argyle Finance Solutions Summit. My name is Nick with Argyle, and it's great to have everyone joining us today. A couple of notes before I turn things over to our esteemed speaker. First, a quick reminder to stop by our sponsors' virtual booths at any time during today's event and for the following week. Our partners are committed to providing you with valuable content and a great overall experience. At any time during today's event, you can visit their virtual booths from the main agenda page, which include complimentary materials, information, and meet and greet opportunities. To ask questions throughout the session, simply type into the Q&A chat and we will address your questions at the end of the session. Now, without further delay, I would like to introduce our speaker, Rhonda Green, Principal Solutions Consultant, AvidXchange. We're really excited to have Rhonda with us for a marketplace thought leadership and demo titled Cutting Costs and Improving Efficiency, the Strategic Value of AP Automation. Welcome, Rhonda. Over to you.
Thanks, Nick. And thanks everyone for joining us today. I'm excited to talk to you about automation, something I'm very passionate about. So for our agenda today, we're going to talk about AvidXchange. We're also going to talk about our solutions. And then, as Nick mentioned, we'll leave questions for the end. So the AvidXchange story. So AvidXchange is a leading provider of accounts payable automation software and payment solutions for middle market businesses and their suppliers. AvidXchange's software as a service-based end-to-end software and payment platform digitizes and automates the AP workflows for more than 8,800 businesses, and we have made payments to more than 965,000 suppliers of our buyers over the past 5 years. Additionally, AvidXchange is a licensed money transmitter for U.S. B2B payments. Licensed as a money transmitter by the New York State Department of Financial Services, as well as all other states that require AvidXchange to have a license. To learn more about AvidXchange and its publicly traded parent, AvidXchange Holdings, Inc., trading on NASDAQ as AVDX, are transforming the way companies pay their bills, please visit www.avidexchange.com. So our positioning, we do transform the way middle market companies pay and receive their bills. We match purchase orders, manage invoices, and facilitate vendor payments, all from the same cloud-based platform. Our purpose is to improve processes for our customers and win big together with our partners. Going to take a quick poll. So how many hours a week does your AP staff spend on manual processes? Is it 10 plus hours, 25 plus hours, or 50 plus hours? Looking forward to getting the results here. All right, so it looks like 41.67% told us that they're spending 10 plus hours. 33% told us that they're spending 25 plus hours, and 25% said 50 plus hours. And that's a lot of time to spend on manual AP processes. So it's definitely something that AvidXchange can help you with. So let's talk about the current state of accounts payable versus the future state. I love this slide because it really represents what life is like with a manual AP department. So as you see here, you see multiple steps. You see 12 steps of the typical flow of invoice processing. So you receive the invoice. It could be, various ways. You may be getting them through the mail still, or you may be receiving them electronically. Maybe someone is emailing to you. But either way, you've got to open up the mail that comes in. Also, you have to open up those emails, a lot of times print out all of that information. You've got to route those invoices around for approval. Usually what we see is folks are scanning invoices in and maybe keeping them out on a local drive, and then they're attaching copies of those invoices in emails to send out for approval. You're also having to code the invoices and do all of those manual tasks like data entry for one being a big time consuming one. But you're going through that whole process, doing it in a manual way. And when it comes time to pay the invoice, then you're going through the check run selection. Maybe you're still paying primarily with paper checks. So you're going to get your check stock, loading it into your check printer that has your Micker ink, and printing all of those out. You may be also making copies of invoices to attach or copies of checks to keep in the filing cabinet. So there's just a lot of manual work done in the accounts payable department. So after automation, I think actually these slides may have been backwards, Kim. Go back to the other one, please. I am not saying, okay. Can you go ahead and change again for me one more time? Okay, I think this is the same slide, Kim. It both says before. But anyway, after automation, you will see that AvidXchange and our service teams are able to take away 9 of those steps. So we're now collecting the invoices for you, regardless of how they're received. We're getting the invoices scanned into our AP automation system. And then they're hitting automated workflows that you have already designated, so that the way that your invoices are approved today will continue, but just in an automated fashion. You're able to apply coding, but we do have smart tools now that will help you with that. So we can do a default GL where we remember where something was coded previously. We can set a GL code by vendor. So we've got lots of ways to be able to make that coding process much easier. But essentially the 3 tasks that you will still be in control of are selecting how those invoices are coded. So you're still selecting your GL accounts from your chart of accounts. You're also approving those invoices and making any changes if necessary. And then at the end of the day, you're also selecting those invoices for payment when the time comes. So we're really boiling down from a 12-step process down to 3. So let's take a minute now to talk about the AvidXchange solutions. So as you can see here, step 1 talks about how those suppliers are sending those invoices. So we've already talked about how we can help you with that. And then, as I mentioned, step number 2, you're still in complete control over approving those invoices. So you're still selecting your GL accounts from your approved chart of accounts. We're then also, once invoices are fully coded and approved, we're syncing that data back to your accounting system. And it's going to come back into your AP subledger. It's going to look as if you've entered the invoices manually like you do today. And then once you have selected those invoices, what you want to approve for payment, you're going to create that check run process in your accounting system, still in control over selecting what you want to pay and when. And then you're going to send that payment information over to AvidXchange through our integration. Your buyers are then also able to approve payments before the payment process gets going. We're also taking those vendors that you're paying and we're matching them up against our AvidPay network of vendors. Ultimately, we are providing remittance information. We're sending all of that information out to all of the suppliers so that they can easily apply that payment. And we're even able to accelerate cash flow for suppliers through our Invoice Accelerator program if they're interested. So really, that's kind of the flywheel and how it looks with our cloud-based solution. So let's talk about a customer success story. Here's a quote. The main reason we went with AvidXchange was that it was a full circle platform, meaning it could take the invoices, we could review and approve, and then payment would also happen through AvidXchange. And this is coming to us from Blair Myers, who is the Vice President of Finance and Accounting at Vets Pets. And so they actually joined AvidXchange back in 2020, and they're using our Avid Strongroom solution, which is also an invoice automation solution, and our Avid Pay. But their accounting system is Sage Intacct, which we've got an integration with. We've got lots of Sage Intacct customers. But really, the results of helping this company grow is we're setting up approval limits that eliminate the need for Myers to have to approve every single invoice. We're also typing comments right onto the invoice. She's able to do that, or anyone on her team, rather than having to use a bunch of pesky Post-it notes. And now she and her team are able to review those invoices and payments online at home. So she's no longer tied to the office. We hear that all the time, that people still have to come in if they're cutting manual checks because they've got to use the check printer with the Micker toner. And so now this gives her and her team the ability to be able to work remote. So it's definitely something that we hear a lot as one of the benefits, and just being able to access their data at any time and from anywhere is key. We have another here, secret sauce for Mike Swope, who is the Chief Financial Officer at DRM Incorporated, which is an Arby's franchisee. So secret sauce, AP automation proves to be missing ingredient for Arby's growth. And so Mike told us that by implementing AvidXchange, his team grew their sales by 54%. So 2017 through 2019, invoices went up by 17% and payments increased by 6.5%. But with AvidXchange, he now has overall better cash flow, visibility into all of his payables, and control. Because again, I know internal controls and control in general is very important to our audience. And if anything, you're definitely not losing any controls with AvidXchange's products. If anything, you're gaining additional control through all of the visibility that you will have. We even now offer an analytics tool so that you can run BI reports to see where you're at, to track spend, to look at individual supplier data. So all kinds of reporting is available now, as opposed to back in the day when I was an AP manager, when really we just 100% had to rely a lot on Excel spreadsheets, or pulling information out of the ERP, which wasn't necessarily, especially back in the day, the most proficient use of our time. And it didn't really give us a lot of that real-time data that we're able to now in our services. So now I'd like to talk a little bit more in depth about Avid Invoice. So again, let's talk about those ways that invoices can be received by AvidXchange. So as I mentioned, we can set up an email box in your business's name so that your vendors can now send their invoices to that email address where we'll manage them. But if you still have invoices that are being received through the USPS, so you've still got paper invoices, that's fine. We can actually open up a PO box in your company's name, but we're going to manage that. So we're actually going to go and get all of the paper invoices, and again, get them scanned into the automated workflow. But also, if you still receive invoices there at your location, maybe someone drops off an invoice or a vendor just continues to mail them to you, not a problem. All you need to do is just scan that in and upload it yourself right into our system. But we're going to receive the invoices. And then one of the important things that we're going to do next is capture that header detail. And by header detail, I mean we're capturing invoice number, date, amount, PO number if applicable. But also we're going to take your master vendor file and we're going to load that in to AvidInvoice as well, so that when the invoices come in, it's looking for a matching vendor in your system. So you're still going to create vendors in your ERP. You're going to do all of your vendor setup due diligence just like you do today. So you lose no control there either. But once that's done, that information, those updated vendors, those new vendors, all of that is going to sync over to us on a regular basis. So our system is looking for that matching vendor. So let's say we get an invoice in and it's for a vendor that is not in your master file. Then those invoices are actually moved to an exceptions queue, where a member of your team would actually go in and monitor. Because obviously we wouldn't want to assume just because we received that invoice in and it was addressed to you that that is a legitimate invoice if it's not already set up in your ERP. So then you could go in and make that decision whether or not, if it is a legitimate invoice, then you can get the vendor set up in your accounting system. And then, as I mentioned, that will sync over to us. So you don't have to set the vendor up in two places. But once all of this is done, then that is going to be kicked off to the first person in the workflow. And so what happens is the first person in your workflow, sometimes it may be your AP team, or maybe it's, a staff accountant, whomever it is, they're actually going to receive an email from AvidXchange letting them know that they have invoices to review and approve. So there'll actually be a login link on the email itself so that they can go right into the portal and sign in with their secure login. So once they do that, they can then go into their pending approval queue, which is what we're looking at now. And at a high level, they can see all of the invoices that they have set for them to review and approve. So again, if you've got maybe a high level approver that is looking to, really approve based on the dollar amount and doesn't necessarily need to drill into each invoice, they can certainly review a lot of the information here and go ahead and click the box and send them on their way. But of course, most people will want to drill into the detail. So next, please. All right. So what happens now is, as you can see here, you are able to view your invoice. So it doesn't matter if it's 1 page or 100 pages, we're able to capture that invoice for your review. And then over here on the left-hand side, that's that header information that I was talking about. So between our technology, which we have AI, we have machine learning, OCR capability, it's actually capturing that information and it's learning over time, so that if an invoice comes in and maybe it's hard to read or in a different format or something of that nature, it's going to learn what that looks like so that the next time it comes in, it's going to pick it up even quicker. But just to guarantee, we do have a team of indexers that will actually go behind and make sure that everything was captured correctly. Making sure that all the invoice numbers are right, the invoice totals, amounts, etc. And you can see here where it says supplier that the city of Charlotte is in bold and obviously has a number assigned to it. And that, again, that's coming over to us from your pre-approved vendor list. So it has found the address on the invoice and matched it up to a supplier in your system. So everything looks good there. The next step is the coding. So as you can see here, the GL accounts are already here. And that's because they turned on our smart coding tools. So as I mentioned earlier, you're able to set your vendor with a default GL code, because maybe every time you get an invoice in from Staples, you know you want it coded to office supplies. So you can go ahead and set that up so that the invoice will already be coded for you. And you'll always have the ability to go in and change the code should you need to. You can always add multiple lines of distribution. And again, what we're looking at here now, that GL string, if you will, where it says property codes, accounting codes, description, all of that is configurable. So we're going to set that up to match your existing setup today. And we also have another smart coding tool called Used Previous. So if, let's say it's a utility invoice, you pay it month over month, and it's always going to be coded, let's say to electric, then you can turn on Use Previous, and it will apply that same coding to any invoices that come in for that vendor and that particular account number associated with that vendor. So again, many ways to go ahead and make that coding much easier for you. And as you can see here, just really quick, some of the other tabs, you're able to attach items. So maybe you've got a quote or a contract that you want to attach to the invoice record. You can certainly do that. You can also create a comment that is visible to any other folks that are in the workflow. So maybe you've got an invoice that needs 3 people in the workflow. So the first one can communicate something out where anyone else can see it. You can even email out to your vendor directly from here. And then our system would capture that conversation. So again, a year from now, if you're going back and doing some research and reviewing this, that comes in handy. And then the workflow tab, you're also able to see where that invoice is in the approval cycle. So you'll know who the invoice is sitting with. As a matter of fact, you can even put timers on people and set a time frame for which they need to approve. I've had people tell me that they've turned on the timer functionality and given their approvers 48 hours. So if the 48-hour approval window passes and they're still not approved, that person will get another email. And you can even add their boss on to the distribution, just making sure that, give them a gentle nudge there to make sure that those invoices are flowing through in a timely fashion. And then the last tab is the history tab. And that's where we capture all the details for that particular invoice, every single thing that happened to it from the minute we received it until it is batched up and sent back to your accounting system. So some of the benefits of AvidInvoice. So it's highly scalable. We hear all the time companies that are growing, and they know that with AP automation and AvidXchange that they're able to grow their business without growing their headcount. So they're able to keep their AP staff at the number that it is now. No need to add additional headcount. Also increased processing capacity, 60% net savings from that. As you can imagine, touching that many pieces of paper and having to do so many manual things really adds up. So we're able to help save you there. Also, you're able to connect anywhere, anytime. And we really heard, once COVID was upon us all, so many companies didn't have access to their payables. Because, really, if you think about it, AP is a department that generally, never used to work remote. They would come in the office and they would have all of their invoices there and they would file them there and they had their check printer there. So when COVID happened, people were scrambling. They didn't have their invoice data. They didn't have their check printer. I mean, we even heard people tell us that they took their check printer home to print checks, and that's not very secure at all. So no more worrying about that, because now, as long as you have internet access, you're able to see all of your data. And there's no expensive hardware to install. As we've mentioned several times, we operate in the cloud. And you're able to approve both invoices and payments with your mobile device. So if you've got your phone and you're on vacation, it's going to shrink down to the size of that device and you're able to approve from anywhere. And no IT expert is needed. We've got hundreds and hundreds of integrations. And so typically our team, our project management team on our onboarding department, they don't necessarily need an IT expert. They've already more than likely implemented this with other customers using your same accounting system. So they're able to usually work it all out just with the accounting team. So that's just some of the benefits of Avid Invoice, but I'm sure by now you've probably picked up on some additional ones as well. And now we're going to talk about Avid Pay. So here is an overview. So Avid Pay automates your payment process. So today, where you might be, sending checks to a check printer, printing out those checks, making copies of those checks, maybe someone is still even manually signing those checks. Check runs can take a lot of time. I've been told by folks, it takes all day in some cases, depending on the volume. And again, as myself, longtime former AP manager, check run days were no fun, right? Because, a lot of times the AP team ended up having to fold those checks and stuff the envelopes. Well, that is all gone because now you're able to generate your payments through your accounting system. So really you are creating your check run just like you do today and selecting the invoices that you want to pay. But instead of pushing them to a check printer, you're going to send that payment data over to AvidXchange through our integration. And then we're going to take that payment file and match it up against our Avid Pay network of vendors to see which vendors are already in our network. And for any new vendors, we have a dedicated team of folks that will actually reach out to the vendor and educate them on the process and ultimately get all of their remittance information. And the vendor is actually being paid by their preferred payment method. So with Avid Pay, the vendor is in control over selecting how they want to be paid. So I always like to say today, you may be paying your vendor with a check, but through Avid Pay, they may actually receive a virtual card because they have a merchant account. And for them, that's much faster and much more secure. We also give you the ability to approve those payments inside of our Avid Pay portal as one kind of final sign off. I know for companies that still have someone that manually signs their checks, a lot of times they'll use our pay control functionality because they can then have those invoices routed to them where they receive an email letting them know that they have payments to approve. And then they can come on out to the Avid Pay portal and review what's set up to be paid, and then go ahead and approve the payments. Or maybe they've decided, I don't want to pay this week. I want to wait until next week. They can put payments on hold. So they've got a lot of flexibility there and they can customize those approval workflows. But at the end of the day, once all of the payments are, fully approved and ready to go, then we're going to initiate individual ACH debits to your existing bank account. So let's say you sent us a payment file of 10 payments. You can expect to see 10 separate transactions on your bank statement. And each one of those transactions would reference the corresponding check number from your accounting system. Makes reconciliation so much easier. And because we are debiting your account at the time you send us the payment file, your bank reconciliation really changes drastically. No more ticking and tying, did this check clear, did that check clear, because everything will be cleared from your accounting system perspective. So then you're going to utilize the Avid Pay portal to track your payments. You'll have complete visibility into those payments. You'll see when they were issued. You'll see when they cleared. Once they clear, you'll have your proof of payment. But again, just know that our team is also monitoring those payments and doing that initial vendor outreach for those outstanding payments. Also, as I mentioned, they have 3 different payment methods to choose from. The first one being virtual card. So if they have a merchant account and accept card payments, then we can certainly send them a 16-digit card number, a MasterCard number. So it's a one-time use, so that card number actually expires after they process it. We also have AvidPay Direct, which is our enhanced direct deposit, where the funds are deposited directly into the vendor's bank account. And then we offer the paper check. If the vendor says, look, I just don't want an electronic payment, send me a check, no problem. We'll cut the check, we'll stuff the envelope, we'll mail it out. And as I mentioned, we're also following up on those check payments as well, making sure that they're clearing. So we're really helping out with the due diligence portion of the achievement process. And as I said, that last bullet there, the ongoing AvidPay supplier services, that's that team of folks that are delivering those payments, they're making sure that they clear, they're answering any questions that you have. So it's a real full service payment offering. And really with AvidPay, you can eliminate or greatly reduce risk-prone, inefficient payments. And here are some of the benefits that you get with the AvidPay network. You'll be able to increase efficiency. Again, you can review code approved payments on a cloud-based platform, allowing for that 24/7 access. Also reducing cost. Sometimes this can be significant, but we're able to reduce the hard cost of dealing with paper invoices and payments. We've already talked about scaling for growth. We can definitely help you there. Also, we can help you improve your vendor relations. We're going to pay your suppliers on time with the payment method that they prefer, while providing access to AvidXchange's dedicated full service support team. We also now have a vendor portal, so vendors can actually log into the vendor portal and check on their payment information that way. And as I mentioned, maintaining control, we understand how important that is. So you're able to, keep or create custom workflows to ensure that your data is accurate. And you're able to gain insight. So you're able to make those informed business decisions with Avid Analytics, which is our embedded BI solution that I talked about earlier. And not to mention secure transactions. We all know this is top of mind because unfortunately the fraudsters are out there every day looking for ways to trick us. So we have security monitoring, and we use fraud monitoring tools like Positive Pay on all of the checks, and risk scoring to flag suspicious activity, and have a 24/7, 365 on-call rotation of security operations staff. We also utilize a clearing account. So when we debit your bank account, those funds are placed into an MSB, a money service business account, which acts just like a clearing account. Their funds are being dispersed out to your vendors from that account. So further minimizing your risk, as in like exposing your bank account information. And identity access management. We use role-based access controls so the right individuals have the right access to resources. So you're able to control who can see and do what. We've got another customer testimonial here from Christopher P. at Colliers International that told us the productivity gains attained through automation will lead to a saving snowball effect as we scale for growth. This will allow our existing team to be able to handle a significantly greater volume and, more importantly, focus on value-added tasks for the ultimate benefit of our clients. Well said, Chris. So AvidXchange customer reported key benefits. Hear this all the time, and we love hearing this. 90% says it saves time. Also, 90% says it improves productivity and enables hybrid work. Again, COVID has changed everything. A lot of teams are still in a hybrid work where maybe they go into the office a couple of days, but work from home the rest of the time. So, not only is it saving time and improving productivity, but it's enabling you to have access to all of your information. and 83% improved employee satisfaction. People tell us all the time, AP specialists, that they don't want to push paper around and they don't want to manually enter a bunch of invoices. So we definitely are helping with the employee satisfaction. And 83% tells us that it enables more value add work. Is AP automation, is it just about, cutting heads in your AP department? Absolutely not. If anything, as we've talked about, it helps you scale for growth so that you don't have to add additional headcount, but it gives you the ability to be able to take that existing staff and give them different tasks to do so that they're able to grow their skill set and learn and be able to do more strategic things. And so this is, these are things that we hear on a regular basis. And again, having lived this life myself before I came to AvidXchange, I can definitely tell you it is 100% worth the move from manual to automation. All right, so we have now Q&A. So I think that we have some questions here. Let me look through them and I will start to answer them for you. The first question is, can you give an average time frame for a payback on a typical AP automation initiative? Well, I mean, again, a lot of this depends on your volume. But typically you're going to see that payback within weeks or a month or more after you have automated. Because again, you're immediately, once you're gone through implementation, once you're live, you're going to get that benefit back right away of having to touch so much paper. So you'll find that the returns are pretty immediate. Question number 2 is, has AvidXchange performed any AP automation projects for Fortune 100 companies? We have some very large organizations that use AvidXchange that process, in excess of 50,000 invoices a month. So yes, we've got very large customers that are using our service and have been for quite some time now. Question number 3, is AvidXchange looking to incorporate AI features into its product suite? Well, we already have begun that process. So we have what's called our Avid Capture tool, and that's that tool that actually captures those invoices coming in, and it's scraping the invoice data right off the invoices. And even, back in the day where all we had was OCR, it was never, 100% reliable. A lot of times it was maybe 60%. Even if you're receiving handwritten invoices, AI and machine learning has definitely helped with that. Plus, as I mentioned, we also have, real people that are going behind the technology, making sure that that information was captured correctly. So our accuracy rate is almost 100%. It's like 99.7% because of the tools and the people. Question number 4, will AvidXchange perform consulting or review service without doing an implementation for a potential client? Well, that's a good question. And one, I think that I will take that one away and talk about that and certainly get back to you on that. Question number 5, looks like AvidPay takes the money for the full amount of the check run, takes away any float. Who handles the escheatment? Well, remember, we're not taking a lump sum amount. We're doing individual ACH debits. So your bank reconciliation process will actually be easy for you. And, we are, I guess, taking away float. Float's a little better now than it was, say, a year ago, but it's still not what it was 20, 30 years ago. But on our payment side, we're actually able to offer rebate incentives on qualified electronic payments. So a lot of times those rebates can help offset, any float concerns. And as far as escheatment, you're still actually filing with the applicable states, but we're really helping with that due diligence portion of the escheatment process, where we're doing the vendor outreach for any payments that haven't cleared. So we're actually going to take note of everything that we've attempted. And if we're not able to get in touch with the vendor, we're going to return those funds back to you because those are your funds. And like I said, ultimately the escheatment process remains with you, but you're going to have the notes that we provide you so that you can file with the states when the time comes. Great question. Okay, next question. What are the downsides, if any, to automating specific finance functions? Well, I mean, it's a change, right? And I mean, I can only speak to AP automation specifically, but, a lot of times people think, Sally has been with us for 30 years. There's no way that she'll be able to adapt or whatever the case may be. And that is simply not true. We hear all the time from AP specialists that they want automation. They know that they're still very important. They're very important still in reviewing the invoice process, but they're no longer having to push the paper all around. And so I'd say, sometimes just the change management, but usually that's something that, certainly if you request a demonstration, we can walk you through that. And the next question is, why are companies reluctant to switch to automated AR AP processes? And I think we just talked about that. I think it's the fear of change, right? If it's not broke, why fix it? Well, if you look at the bigger picture and all of the value props that I've presented, there's so much more to gain than just staying the same. The efficiencies, the time savings, the cost savings. I mean, there's just so many benefits to it. But I think, again, it's just all about change. Question number 8, what are the typical ERP systems that you integrate with? Well, we integrate with really all of the big ones. We've got integrations with Sage, we've got integrations with GP, with Microsoft, all of the real estate and construction type ERPs, your Yardis, your MRIs, your Entradas. We have over 225 ERP integrations. So there's a very good chance that we integrate with your ERP. And it's certainly something that we can talk one-on-one to you. Question number 9. How do you mitigate risk while transitioning to new tools or technologies? Oh, that's a great question. So as I mentioned, none of your existing controls change. The same people that need to review and approve invoices will continue to do so, but now in an automated fashion. So you're still going to work with our implementation team to create workflows, to create those approvals, to restrict access if necessary. The old saying about segregation of duties in AP, how important it is that you don't have one person that can, set up vendors and enter invoices and cut checks. I mean, think about now the payment files coming over to us and it's all done in an electronic format, but you still have the same level of visibility and control because, again, you're selecting what is being paid when it's being paid. So super great questions. If there are no other questions, I will turn it back to Nick.
Great. Thanks so much, Rhonda. That was an incredible thought leadership and demo. I also want to thank everyone else for joining us today. This session, along with all of today's content, will be available on demand following the event. This officially concludes the Finance Solutions Summit. Thank you again for joining us today and engaging in our content. Have a great rest of your day.